Hello everybody, I wanted to check in with you and discuss the coming week. This week, as you can see, we're discussing learning by observation and learning and motor skills. Those are two areas that I'm very, very familiar with and I actually am very interested in, just like the rest of the material, but this material in particular is extremely interesting to me. I spend a lot of time engaged in physical activities and sports, so I'm always trying to learn new motor skills, two of which are most important to me are tennis and skiing. I engage a lot in tennis and I engage in skiing and in ski racing as far as adults are concerned. I mean, it's not the same as what Lindsey Vonn does, but it's kind of our what we call beer league. That's our view of it for adults who are not at the elite level, but also observational learning. Both of these are extremely important to me. I've actually had an opportunity to meet Albert Bandura at one point at the University of Michigan and talk to him and tell him how important his work has been to me. Observational learning is a key. I'm sorry about the heat pump going off behind you, but that's the way summer works, right? There's a lot of noises. I'm sitting outside in my patio here. I have an outdoor patio that's screened in, protect me from all the crazy bugs around right now. But let's talk a little bit about this next two chapters. When I first got my doctoral degree, I was interested in not just research but also in psychology of sport. So this chapter is very important to me because I'm very interested in motor skills and how well people perform and what they do to ensure their elite performance. I play tennis all the time during the summer, and even during the winter I play like once a week. During the winter my focus is more on skiing, as I mentioned, so I keep on going back and forth between the two sports. But right now it's summer, so it's a perfect time to discuss tennis. When I'm playing, I'm working on ensuring that I perform my skills correctly. What I'm hoping is that I program my responses. If you recall the extra readings we did on social information processing suggested that we focus on, or that certain individuals rely on these schema to program the way they respond. Well, similarly in physical activity, we want to have schema for the way we respond to particular events. In tennis, it's the way we respond to certain types of shots. So if a shot comes to my backhand side, I want to respond exactly the same way every single time. Minor modifications, of course, due to the way the ball is hit. Same with my forehand, the same with my serve, etc. I'm always trying to make sure that I perform my skill exactly the way it should be. This occurs not just in tennis, but it occurs in any kind of activity that's motor related, whether it's bicycle riding, driving a car, skiing, juggling, whatever you end up doing that's of a physical nature. We tend to want to maintain the same kind of performance over and over again. The more we do so, the better we feel about ourselves. It's important to note that the cognitive side of psychology and of this course is strongly related to the non-cognitive side. When we think of the learning side versus the cognitive side, the two of them are very, very strongly related. Cognition depends on learning. It depends on reinforcement. We're reinforced in many different ways. Sometimes we're reinforced directly for actions we conduct, or we're reinforced vicariously by watching other people perform the actions and then performing the actions themselves and seeing them reinforced for their activity. We feel reinforced as well. So in terms, going back into sport, I was watching my son play tennis today. He's taking lessons from somebody, and I was watching the way the instructor deals with him, and I love this way. When we're dealing with clients, whether it's directly in a sense that you're working in psychotherapy with a client or in any type of relation with a client, You want to make sure that the client feels good about the self, right? When people feel rewarded, they will continue to behave. That's what we've been learning in this course, that rewards increase the likelihood that a behavior will be repeated, whereas punishment decreases the likelihood. One of the issues we have in learning is that we tend to want to reward the outcome rather than the process. So we focus on the absolute outcome. In a sport like tennis, we focus on whether an individual wins a point or loses a point, wins a match or loses a match. Like today, we saw in the women's final at Wimbledon, Venus lost. So is that failure? Many people would believe yes. It's very, unfortunately, it's a strong belief that unless you actually win, you lose. If we're in a battle situation in war where life and death occurs, of course you lose if you lose, and you win if you win. You survive if you win, you die if you lose. But when it comes to sport, that's not the same. In sport, we try to improve our technique and improve our performance. We try to be performance-oriented versus outcome-oriented. The only people who need to be outcome-oriented are the ones at the highest level, like Serena Williams, for instance. She wins a lot. She wins because she's one of the best players in history. So for her, winning is very important. But for the rest of us, as we're learning a skill, our goal should be to improve our performance over time. Doing so, we learn how to reinforce improvement rather than outcome. I was watching Coach Corey, who works with my son, work with him on, my son's name's Alex, work with him on how well he was hitting his backhand. And he was focusing specifically on how well he rotated his upper body and how well he extended his elbows, if you will, and then finished with this really, really nice, I guess he'd finish with his follow-through going over his shoulder. If he's hitting his backhand on his left side, because he's a righty, his racket would have to end up on his left shoulder again. It's a really, really complicated move. And regardless of whether my son hit the ball in or out, as long as he performed the skill correctly, he was rewarded. And that's one of the things that we're missing a lot in life or in sport or in any area. We tend to focus too much on the outcome rather than on the performance. What we should be focusing on is how well we execute whatever skill it is we're trying to execute. A lot of people like to play golf. Golf is a very difficult sport. You're not going to hit a hole-in-one or a birdie all the time, but can you improve your skill? Can you improve your skill in tennis? Can you improve your skill in any kind of sport? Can you become a better runner? Can you become a better cyclist? Can you become a better swimmer? Whatever it is that you do in terms of motor performance, you want to become better. So learning how to focus on becoming better by executing your skills more appropriately will make you a better performer. In fact, I play tennis all the time. I'm 53 years old. I play with younger players because I have decent skill, right? And I want to play with the best players possible. Like tomorrow I'm playing with a kid who plays at a high level for Drexel. Drexel has a really good team. So I've played with players who are in the top level of the Drexel team or other teams, whether it's LaSalle, doesn't matter. I want to play with the best possible college players who are Division I players. I can't beat them, but I can improve my game when I'm playing with them. And that's what I want to do. I want to keep on improving my game. I always want to improve all the time. And the beauty of it is that I'm enjoying success even if I lose the point. Think of it. Think about that. What would your life be like if you actually enjoyed success even if you objectively failed? Like you lose a match in tennis, or you lose a point but you hit the shot right, you still feel successful. That's the most liberating feeling of all. I spent a lot of time skiing. I spent a lot of time playing tennis. I used to spend a lot of time cycling. I still cycle, but I cycle I use this like a stationary bike. I have a bike. I put it on some a wind trainer or a gel trainer actually, and I ride. But I used to ride all the time. As long as I kept on improving, as long as my technique kept on improving, I felt really good about myself, and I do that right now too. So imagine what your life would be like if you could reward yourself for improving rather than rewarding yourself for absolute perfection in your performance. Well, you'd be so much happier than you are now. Think about that. Same with academics. I know a lot of people aren't happy with the way they're performing in this course yet, and you probably want to blame me for that, but you need to focus on yourself and how well you're improving in your mastery of the material. Okay, if you think about the absolute grade, like I need to get an A. I've heard some of you say I need a 4.0. 4.0 means nothing. I didn't have a 4.0 as an undergrad. I have more publications than one can imagine. I have over 50-something publications. Must be like in the 55 or so range. I have grants. I have all kind. I've made every single achievement that's possible. I'm a full professor. I have tenure. I have everything. None of that matters. What matters is that you want to keep on improving. I want to become a better teacher every day. I want to become a better scholar every day. If you do that, you're going to be the happiest person in your life. Alright, so that's a little bit about motor learning, although that last part wasn't motor, it's more cognitive learning. Let's go back to Bandura. Bandura is an amazing figure in psychology. He's one of my favorites I've ever met. Again, I've met him in person. What Bandura did, compared to the other learning theorists, is he took learning out of the me and put it into what other people are doing. So I can actually learn by watching what other people do. And if they perform well, and if they succeed, I can replicate what they do and feel the same reward, even if I didn't get the reward. So I can actually learn by perceiving the consequences to others. It means that I don't have to do everything in order to learn. Like I don't have to jump in front of a car to learn that a car can kill me. If I heard that some poor person unfortunately died by walking across a road without looking left and right and got hit, I'm not going to repeat that. So I can learn through observation. I can learn through reading. By reading, I'm actually learning through the consequences of actions to others. Bandura is a fascinating figure. He really revolutionized learning theory. Without him, we would think that we'd have to enact every single behavior and experience the consequences, and we don't need to. Isn't it interesting, though, that we rely on educated individuals to tell us something that's so obvious? Isn't it obvious that I could just watch the consequences that occur to someone else to not repeat it? I mean, it should be obvious, right? Yet we see every day that people do not listen or accept the consequences that occur to others. I mean, look at it in politics. We see today that we see some of the errors that are made by the Trump administration. And I'm not going to get into politics here, but I do see there are errors being made by his administration that could have easily been avoided if he and his group had followed the leads of others. Interestingly, though, in the future you'll see that people will do some things that Trump did when he's out of office. Like, for instance, he uses Twitter now. I bet you in the future a lot of presidents will be using Twitter and a lot of politicians will be using Twitter. So we tend to learn through experience, direct experience, and through vicarious experience, through watching what occurs to others. So that's a very, very interesting phenomena that occurs. Given that Wimbledon is occurring right now, it's almost done, I'm going to bring up one more point here before I let you all go. I think a lot about Nadal. Nadal, as you see in some of our examples, videos, is a perfect example of somebody who uses very interesting behaviors in order to, well, before he performs his service in tennis. It's interesting, in sports, people tend to rely on superstitions a lot. As somebody who worked in sports psych a bit, and now I'm more into exercise psychology because more people need exercise and health and sports psychology, but a lot of athletes tend to use superstitions or follow superstitions before they perform an act, and if they can't perform their superstition, they feel lost. Like Martina Navratilova, for instance, back in when she was at her peak, she had to eat eggs before playing, a final in a match. If she couldn't find her eggs, she would be, the eggs she's eating, she wouldn't be able to perform well. It's crazy. We follow these superstitious behaviors, but there's no reason for us to do them. However, sometimes we believe that these superstitions are very potent because they so happen to work when we were rewarded. So we tend to do the same things over and over again. We tend to allow circumstance rather than cognition direct our behaviors. Let that be a lesson to you. Everything that you do because you have achieved that status. Or you work really hard to, for instance, to get your undergrad degree. You're working really hard now to get your master's degree. You work really hard in this course, studying. There's no superstition will make you do better. It's everything is what you've done on your own. Okay, so this is an interesting chapter because we're seeing that people aren't very rational, and we tend to believe, as humans, that others have control over us when in reality we have full control. Anyway, I just wanted to spend a little time venting with you about all these different issues. I hope you're enjoying the course, and I am enjoying reading your work, truly. So, and I hope the rest of this summer session goes well. As you can see here, looking at this calendar, we don't have that much more time left. Today is the 16th. Wait, let me put my glasses on. I can't see. I'm blind as a bat. Today's the 15th. So we have two more weeks and then final. So please enjoy the rest of this summer session. I've loved working with you all. Thank you. Bye.